What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi, I'm mindset coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of The Mindsetters, where we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. And today we're actually going to be talking about that exactly, about what our limiting belief systems are and how that is affecting our lives. But before we get into the show, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button if you like the content. Let us know what you want to hear. Give us some topic ideas, send us your comments, and most importantly, give us a thumbs up. I am your host, Coach Lorraine Lindsey. I am a certified mindset coach, life coach, and a peak performance coach. And some of the things we're going to be talking about today will be on the training that I've received through the Tony Robbins organization. We're gonna kind of dive into some of his teachings, which I think are life-changing and incredibly profound, not only for myself, but for the people that I coach. So without further ado, I would love to introduce these two fabulous ladies. We're starting a series on women empowerment. I want to really tap into women and build on their strengths and help women to overcome some of the obstacles. So this next month, we're going to be meeting some amazing women and talking about things that will hopefully inspire and empower us all. So let me start with my first guest, who is also a reoccurring guest. She's part of the Lipstick Lady crew, my wonderful dear friend, Miss Charlene Ruiz. And a little bit about Charlene. Charlene is a 7-time winning fitness competitor. With that inspiration, she competed from 2009 to 2013. She created her own fitness program and company called Your Time to Be Fit. Your Time to Be Fit Coaching. She is the creator of Your Time to Be Fit Coaching. She's a fitness coach and a mentor. Not only is she a beautiful fitness extraordinaire, she is also an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. She is a current president of the NAREP, the Greater Las Vegas chapter, which is a real estate organization for Hispanic real estate professionals. She has been a mortgage lender also for the last 22 years here in the Las Vegas Valley. So if you need to buy a home and you need lending, get in contact with Miss Charlene. Charlene, thank you for always being here and gracing us with your beautiful presence.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you.
Our next guest is first on the show. It is Catherine Kuo. Well, we're going to call you affectionately known as Kathy. You go by Kathy as well. And a little bit about Miss Kathy. Sorry, one sec here. Kathy, or Catherine, is a real estate broker, investor, and entrepreneur with over 10 years experience in commercial real estate, leasing and sales, real estate investing, asset management, and 1031 exchanges. As a business owner and investor herself, Kathy has an innate grasp of the real estate market and entrepreneurship, which allows her to be solution-oriented and empathize with all parties in a deal to structure win-win resolutions. Her immense desire to help others fulfill their dreams of entrepreneurship and grow their investment portfolios and wealth stems from her own family's humble beginnings. As a child of a first-generation immigrants, she experienced firsthand the countless goals and opportunities that could be achieved through grit and hard work, and strives to empower and inspire others to fulfill their dreams and full potential. So Kathy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Man, I always have these great, strong, driven women,
Yes.
and I love it. And all of us have come from humble beginnings, right? We all have these really incredible stories. And I think it's perfect to have the three of us here to talk about belief systems, right? And the limiting belief systems, because it is the belief systems, despite our adversities, which has led us to where we are today.
Yep.
So what are limiting belief systems? And I'm going to read this, and this is coming from Tony Robbins' website, and I will leave the reference at the end for people because he has a great workbook. But limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are that hold us back from becoming who we are meant to be. These beliefs belief limits us from, these beliefs limit us from reaching our full potential. They are often subconscious. We don't even know that we have them until someone points them out to us. The human brain is wired to conserve energy. We seek certainty in our routines, relationships, and jobs. We're often adverse to risk and don't want to get out of our comfort zones. And we only invest energy into taking action when we believe it will produce results. This is key. When we don't believe we can get results, when we don't have a deep belief in ourselves, we give up before we start. We don't put in our full effort. We sabotage our own success. That's the very definition of limiting beliefs. So I wanted to put that up there just for people to kind of get an idea, because believe it or not, a lot of people are unaware of the limiting beliefs. And so before we get into the 4 bullet points that Tony Robbins says are some of the main 4 reasons, what do y'all want to say just right off the gate about limiting beliefs?
Immediately, I go from limiting beliefs to the beliefs that do work. So in my head, I'm going back and forth on both ends of it, and how limiting beliefs help us to identify our true beliefs. So it's all kind of goes together. But in order to shift and change, we have to recognize that. But that's where my mind is right now. Limiting beliefs. I think we're all given that at birth. Whatever we're learned as a child is, and a lot of those times our parents or whoever raised us don't know different, or we evolve, and now those beliefs that once were don't exist or are not productive for us today. So we have to leave that behind and figure out what the next step is.
Right, that's that pathology.
Correct.
Some of our limiting belief systems are passed on generationally. You were going to say, Kathy?
I was going to say that, like, it's not a one-time thing is what I've realized. I mean, it's so fitting that Charlize is in the fitness industry, because I was a bodybuilder just for fun, and I trained and strength trained for years, and I always, like, use the analogy of going to the gym. You can't keep 6-pack abs because you train for 6 months or a year if you stop going for a year or 2 years or 3 years. Same with limiting beliefs. Like, you have to catch yourself. Even though you overcame it once, you might revert back to those bad habits and those bad beliefs, and it's a conscious effort to continuously train that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's it's so profound you said it, because I do believe that. It's like again, it's perfect tying in fitness.
Yeah.
To your point, you can work your body, but in order for you to get results, you have to stay at it, right?
Yep.
It has to be continued. But
Exactly.
the same thing, the mind needs its own gym too. It needs its fitness regimen, right? To stay on top of that, because there's a lot of physiological things, there's mindset, and there's a lot of things that you have to rewire in order for not just a mantra, a daily mantra, I'm going to be great, I'm going to be great, I am great. That helps, but there's a lot of other things that have to go into play to make that belief system tangible for somebody. So Tony Robbins talks about 4 common limiting beliefs. And we'll start with the first one. And the first one he says is the I don't have time. And I've said it myself, I've heard it a million times from other people, is let's talk about fitness. I really want to lose weight. I really want to eat up. I just don't have time. Or I really would love to start a new business or get a better job or work on myself, but I don't have the time. My life is too busy. And believe it or not, whenever it's very sabotaging, right, to say you don't have time. But a lot of times, or often, it's tied into the fear of failure. And even for some people, the fear of their own success. So what do you ladies want to say? Anyone can chime in here.
I think it's, especially with businesses, a lot of people have dreams, right? It's like, but knowledge without action is entertainment is one of my favorite sayings. Everyone always says, like, oh, I have this great idea, but who actually takes the time to do that? And my business partner and I both, we started pursuing our dreams with a full-time cash flowing career or job. You have the nights, you have the weekends. Are you willing to make those sacrifices? I always say it's not that you don't have time. It's like you don't make time. You make time for whatever is a priority.
Correct.
And so if you want to make that time, you can. And so it's really a matter of priorities as opposed to not having time. And I agree with you wholeheartedly about the fear. I think that's the biggest thing. And I've been there where I was like, I'm not sure if I can do it, so I'm just not going to do it because I don't want to fail.
Right.
And it took a lot of time, energy, effort, and self-work to get over that and be like, look, failure there's beauty in that. There's beauty in a failure, and that's how you get the best lessons, and that's how you grow, and that's how you progress. And changing that mindset to, what is the lesson here?
Right. And you know what's interesting? You say that too, because to your point, it's about prioritizing. When you want to do something, whether it's dating somebody, seeing somebody, getting your hair done, whatever it may be, if it's important for you to do it, you make the time to do it. So why do you think, Charlene, that people use this belief system?
I have a long list, but it's we're creatures of habit. What's familiar is where we get stuck, right? Unless we shift that. And the way to success is the shifts. Like we don't grow or become our best self if we're doing the same thing over and over again. And we can talk ourselves in and out of anything. I could talk myself into having the most best life ever or having a horrible life. It's my own way of speaking to me. That's the first step there. One thing to everybody's point that I believe in and I share with others is, in business, a business plan without a fitness plan is an incomplete business for those reasons exactly. You can't serve one of all of you. You have to build everything of you in order to get to that next level. Otherwise, we do stay in that level. And for me, it's a matter of standards. Like, where do we want to be? Who do we want to be? And if our beliefs are holding us back from the standard we desire, then there's a problem.
You know? I remember we did a workshop many years ago called Ignite the Fire.
Oh, yes.
And I took fire science. I was an EMT and I did firefighting stuff in my past life. And I remember in fire science, the course was about how do you extinguish a fire. And there was 3 components. It's heat, fuel, and oxygen. Right? So if you remove one of those components, the fire is extinguished. So it goes to say, when I thought about that, I thought about the fire within us. What keeps our flame burning? What are the 3 components, right? So for me, it's your mind, your body, and your spirit. And that spirit doesn't necessarily mean a religious spirit. It just means something purposeful, bigger than yourself. And so when one of those components, if you're not taking care of your mind, your fire is gone. If you're not taking care of your body, your fire is gone. If you don't have a sense of purpose greater than yourself, your fire is gone.
Out of alignment.
And so it's a matter of first believing that the flame can be created, and then finding the pockets where it's diminished, right? And we talk about the mindset of belief system. If I believe I don't have time, I'm going to march to that order, right? And I'm going to fill myself up with things to do that are not purposeful to what it is that I want to do, need to do, or must do. And Tony Robbins talks about that as well. There's what you need, there's what you want, and there's what you must do. And when you change just that word from need to like to must, that's when things go into motion. So I want to go on to the next one of the 4, which is I don't have what it takes. That's a deep one, and I think a lot of us tell ourselves we're not good enough.
They may use different words, but it means the same thing. I think not too often do we hear people say, I don't have what it takes, but they'll say, oh, well, I'm a mom, or I'm a wife, or I'm this, I'm that. So in other words, they're saying I don't have what it takes because I'm limiting myself because I have all these other responsibilities and obligations in my life, not realizing that you set the tone of your life. You're not neglecting all these other things because you're taking charge of yourself. And I think that's a belief, especially in, immigrant culture, Latino culture, any culture that comes from somewhere else. They have this belief that if we remove ourselves from our family unit, then nothing's going to come out right in my life because I'm letting everybody else just be there on their own. There's these things that we tell ourselves because
that limit us. Yeah.
That limit us. So that's what I think on that.
What about you, Kathy?
I think for minorities and women, right, representation is key. A lot of, in business at least, what I see is a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I know all I see are the old white guys at the top of any industry, honestly, in commercial real estate for sure. And that's why I think it's like, I think Tony Robbins talks about it, but that first person to beat the mile record, right? Once one person did it, everyone else was like, oh, if he did it, I can do it. If she did it, I can do it. And so I think it's finding that mentor and finding that person that you can seek out and be like, look, I want you to be my mentor, and I saw that you did it. Your story is similar to mine, and that's a big part of why I do what I do, because I was 10 plus years ago when I started in commercial real estate, there was no minority woman at the top of the game. Just literally zero. Like, I was just the only one there. I used to cry in the bathroom. I was just like, I didn't know who to seek for advice. And I didn't think like someone like me coming from a first-generation immigrant family, without connections, without legacy, without the country clubs, without all this backing, could make it. Because I thought it was all nepotism, and those are limiting beliefs I had. I thought oh, you need to know someone, you need to have your family be this person, you need to know this. But then as I got older and I found my mentors, I realized that like seeking that person that I can go to for advice that I know has done it really helped me overcome that and realize that I can do it myself. So I think in any industry now, in this day and age, we are so fortunate to have those mentors. They may not be a lot. They may only be 1% of your industry, whatever industry you're in, but you can probably seek someone who's a minority, who's a woman, who's whatever it is that you make excuses about why you can't do it. Or a mom, there's whatever it is, find that person that you can model after. And again, it's a Tony Robbins belief, but
even if it's Tony Robbins too, even if it's someone that's not physically in front of you, just seeking that information. And what I heard from you was you were talking about what you used to tell yourself that you didn't have what it takes. So then you switched that over to your point on that.
And I was just going to say that too, because I think when we talk about I don't have what it takes, often we're looking and comparing ourselves to people we think are better than ourselves. And so it's about reversing that and saying, if I'm going to focus on someone who I think is better, how about I focus on someone who can help?
Yes.
Right? Like you said, look for a mentor or start to research things that go in an alignment and lift you up, because your tribe is important. And sometimes when we say I don't have what it takes, it's because there's a lot of people confirming that for you in your circle. Right? And so it's a matter of saying, if I'm questioning if I don't have what it takes, but I'm actually questioning a thing. So if the idea comes to your mind first that I want to do X, Y, or Z, or I want, this or that in my life, if that's even something that you're pondering, then it means it's in you. It's your seed. The thought doesn't come to you if it's not a seed within you. But you just have to find the soil and the right people, the farmers, and which is your tribe, to help nurture that and to help it to grow. But again, it's a mindset. If you tell yourself, I don't have what it takes, you're going to march to the order of that belief. And so everything that supports that mindset will be real. If you were to say, I've got everything I need to take, I just need to find the resources, it's about relanguaging and saying something different. I have what it takes. I need to find the resources. And let that be your marching order. Boom, you'll be so surprised all the things that will kind of pop up. You're going to say something.
And also understanding what the why is behind that. Because I know that, for me, I believe anything's possible. I know I can't play basketball, football, but if I really tried, I'm capable of doing something, right? But again, that pulling cord, I can understand how women, especially as we get older, they just default to the standard that they're at because they feel like the effort's greater than their desire at that time. So if we can keep that flame alive and going, always surrounding yourself by people, always seeking that information to keep that, whatever that is, because I pray to God that when my time comes to go see my God, that I've executed on those desires inside of me. That's what I want to know that I'm doing. And in any area of my life, at whatever season it is, I hope that I can conquer that desire at that time or grow from that into the next place. There should always be another level in life. I truly believe that.
I always try to simplify because I think some people get confused. They don't know what to know why, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so, because there's all this talk, and I think there's a lot of stimulus out there, especially with social media and things like that, where everyone thinks something about their life has to be this grandiose thing. And so they think big, like, what could I do with my life? Why am I here? And for me, I would say, like, sometimes we just have to let the quiet speak to us. It's like, if you're not sure what you want to do, listen to yourself. When you are out, let's say, talking to someone in a casual conversation, and all of a sudden something that somebody says piques your interest and you perk up, there's an answer right there. Why did that intrigue you?
Everything intrigues me. I'm like, what?
No, but I'm just saying, you made an example, for football.
Right.
There's never been an intrigue or an inclination inside of you that said, this is the seed I need to pursue.
Only the social aspect.
Right?
That's it, yeah.
But we all have seeds within us that we know what they are.
Right.
And again, I'm going to kind of repeat this because I want it to really soak in for people. It's, how do you ask the question for your life? What are you asking? Are you telling yourself that are you telling yourself the limiting belief systems, or are you telling yourself, asking the questions that are going to get you to what you need? And we have to be just as mindful about how we ask ourselves questions and what we believe about our lives. And a lot of people just aren't. It's such an autopilot mechanism that they're not hearing it.
And how we measure that, because there's the practical, I mean, anything's possible, but is it probable? And how do you measure that? Because sometimes what we want is, we have to go through these other steps first to get to that big place. And through that journey, we may realize that that's not really that direction, but I had to go here in order to figure that out.
Right.
So, I mean, I think sometimes anything's possible, yes, but is it probable for me at that time in that moment?
I was going to say, I'll just share one limiting belief I had that really impacted my life for years. Growing up, I had this image of the devil wears Prada as the boss babe in real estate and business in general, right? And you have to be mean, and you have to be like heartless, and you have to be cold. And then I realized, and I overcame that, like, you can lead with kindness, you can lead with empathy, you can define your own path. You don't have to be what Hollywood portrays as someone who's in, like, this powerful woman. Especially, I think we grow up with that, and that helped me tremendously in business when I learned that. But to get to that path, a big part of it was going through the Tony Robbins program, was listening to Sarah Blakely's story and how she led with kindness, how she puts people first. And so defining those, I think it's also like, because I used to think, I can't be successful, I can't make it to the top because I don't want to be that heartless, I don't know if I can curse, but bitch, like, I don't want to be that heartless bitch, which is why I never wanted to make it to the top. So I stifled my own growth because I thought you had to change who you are fundamentally as a person in order to succeed past a certain level.
That's powerful.
And then I'm like, no, you can make it to the top by being ethical, by leading with empathy, by leading with love, by leading with kindness. And that actually attracts the clients and the team that you want.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
your mentors.
I shifted that completely. And literally all these struggles I was facing, like, were gone. So
it's interesting you say that, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about what have been some of my limiting beliefs that I've had. And it's interesting because in certain aspects of my life, I didn't feel as though I had very many limiting beliefs, right? But then I had started realizing that, well, why is it that I start so many different projects and never finish them? Why is it that I always have tumultuous relationships? Why is it that when I'm out, I feel incredibly insecure? And I really had to scale back, but I had to ask the question why first. And so even with just with my look, and I've talked about this on the show, people will say, oh, Lorraine, you're a beautiful girl, you're very attractive. But my limiting belief system did not believe that for a very long time. And it was mostly because I was biracial. I had a black mother and a white father, and I never really knew where to fit in. I didn't look black enough. I didn't look white enough. And although I looked like a Latina, like a Hispanic woman, I didn't speak the language. So I didn't fit in anywhere. And so for me, I was this, mixed child with mixed feelings about who I was, and it took me time to be accepting. And I remember having a chip on my shoulder and having a complex and really trying to prove my blackness to black, to my black friends, and really just trying to talk the talk and walk the walk, and just overdoing it instead of just kind of stepping into self and saying, this is who I am, and not needing the acceptance of others, but needing more so to accept myself. And until I got over that hurdle, I was doing a lot of sabotaging in my life. So
that's good.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because it made me reflect on what my own limiting belief systems are, and I still have some, The next one, we'll go on to part 3, which is I'm not strong enough. And it doesn't necessarily mean physically, but, I'm trying to think of a great example of this one. Or can you think of anything off the top of your head? When people say they're not strong enough.
Because they don't want to be. I think that we don't know what that strength takes to get there because we don't even want to try. It's a fear. I don't know if it's that they don't want to.
The strength of a fear is overcoming the strength of the desire. There's the balance is off. That's how I interpret that.
Okay.
Strength to me is I have courage. I'm going to go through this no matter what. If I want it and I feel that, I'm going to go forward. That to me that's a definition. That's how I see strength as.
Gotcha.
Not having that is I'm not strong enough. That desire is not great enough inside of me for me to go and do what I need to do.
Do you see it as a desire or
that push and pull, that tug? I mean, I don't, as I've gotten older, that identifying what that is has become more and more clear to me. I used to have these things inside of me. Why do I want that so bad? Why am I so? And then as I've gotten older, I realize, because that's where I'm going. You know, that's part of where I'm supposed to head. And as I get closer to that, my alignment just it just flows. So to some, maybe they don't have the support and they think they need that in order to move forward in that way. Or it could be a lot of the belief systems, you know, that tell them you have to be, like to her point, the devil wears Prada. If you're not like that, then you can't be that person. You can't be successful unless you look like X, Y, and Z.
And that's what I think. I think and I think it's a legitimate limiting belief system that a lot of people have when they say they don't feel like they're strong enough. Because I think when we see people succeed, the word you used was courage. We see them as courageous, assertive, strong-willed,
certain
that they have to be these powerhouse people in order to be successful. And I think that's a perception of strength. Is I can never be that person. I'm not as boisterous or as vocal, or I don't have that assertion in me. And I think those are types of strength that they identify with that they don't feel that they have. You were going to say?
I was going to say, like, I think there's maybe that's another limiting belief, right? That strength has to be that kind of person. I say, being soft is a strength. Empathizing is a strength. And a lot of people don't realize this, and that it's like, I negotiate for a living, right? And a lot of people are like, how did you get me that deal? Like my clients all the time, they're like, a lot of these are very powerful men and they've worked with men in the past, and they're like, I've never gotten such an amazing deal. I was like, because I don't go in there combative. I don't go in there trying to strong arm someone. I go in there asking questions, trying to understand, trying to empathize. And that's when people have their guard down. That's when people realize you're trying to come to a solution together, and you're trying to work together, trying to collaborate. And so being strong, you don't have to be that perception of strong.
Absolutely.
You can define your own perception.
Business 101 tip right there. Like that's a tip for everybody to take with them, especially in our industry.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to have that combative approach. And you do find more success. So good for you. Good for
and
you.
I also feel like, and to your point, I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit for people who are out there listening, is that there is strength in your humility. There is strength in your silence.
Yes.
There is strength in your meek quietness. There is strength to every person out there. You don't have to be, like you said, this combative, in your face, strong-willed, or we talked about the alpha female in one of the episodes, alpha female, in order for you to have the desires of your heart,
And that's a belief.
You are strong. You are strong.
Yep.
And you are courageous. And again, it goes back to what we tell ourselves. And saying, okay, well, when I say that I'm not strong enough for this, why do I say that? Yeah. This is how we get to tap in to what we're doing subconsciously. Like, I do say that. I do say I'm not strong enough. Yeah. Wait a minute, why? And figure out what that story is, what that narrative that you keep repeating and how that's showing up in order for you to find those identifiers. Because I think, again, when we talk about limiting belief systems, it's so subconscious for many, many people. They don't even realize that they're limited, because they've just kind of conformed to it.
Yeah.
What about this one? This is the fourth one, which is the one that makes my heart go, right? It's, I don't deserve love. This one breaks my heart because it's something a lot of people struggle with. And we look at today's society with all the mental health crises that are going on, especially amongst young people, where we're seeing suicide rates are going up, and people who are seemingly successful and thriving taking their lives. And it's that belief system that they're not deserving of love and that they aren't loved. And I look at love as not a source or a resource that I need from the outside. I look at it as my own abundance. And really learning, it took me a while to get there, but really learning to tap into self and pour into self and do things that are kind to me. Not just, go and pamper myself, but really, really tapping into my spirituality, which is very important to me, to tapping into being more kind when I look at myself in the mirror, and giving myself permission to forgive myself when I don't get it all right, or when I have an off day, or when I'm feeling down. Just being kind with myself there, and knowing that I'm worthy of love because I am that. And instead of me needing the love, not to say that I don't, because we all need it, but I get to be a resource of it, right?
Yes.
And pour that into other people's lives, because I can feel love by giving it to a complete stranger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because that's where you get your abundance. That's where it's what you can give will always be more valuable than whatever you get. So it's like tapping into that, saying, maybe I didn't get love in my life. Maybe my mother didn't love me, or my daddy wasn't there, or people abused me and mistreated me. And so the outside did me wrong. But who can I be to make the wrong right? And how can I serve someone else until I catch up? And when you become a contributor in that way, it fills you up, because everybody out there is deserving of love. And it breaks my heart to think that people feel like that they don't deserve it.
I think that you identified and you defined the truth of what love is. I think some people don't get that. They don't understand the depth of what that means. They assume the word love, which I wasn't really sure where you were going with that one. Now I see, and it's beautifully said. Perfect. They assume the love is from someone else loving me. Like I'm not worthy or deserving of outside love. Well, in essence, when you love yourself, you love regardless of what you get back. And what you give is exactly what you'll get back plus some. It's like it's giver's gain. You know?
Right.
That's in business, that's in personal, that's in self, but it starts with that self. And the sad part is that people live their life never figuring that out, or hearing that, or having these types of conversations, or listening to these types of podcasts or books, and they spend their whole life looking around them to see who's going to love me if I did something wrong, or if I became that person. They have secrets inside of them that just build up, and they can't forgive themselves, and there's no grace internally. There's all these darkness that just sits until you can learn how to love. If I can give you grace, I can give myself grace, right? That's the exchange. Yeah.
I think it's, again, challenging society's definition of things, right? Just like, I love your definition of it, just like with strength could be vulnerability, it could be softness. Love, a lot of people, I think, just think of it as romantic love only. That's like the first thing people think about, a relationship, romantic love. But exactly what you're saying, and I think working on things like this, the Tony Robbins, like, serving is love. And that's really how it comes full circle. When you serve, when you give, and you lead with love, then you feel like you deserve it, right? And that for me is true, definitely. Like, I feel like, once I started giving back and like helping people and paying it forward and focusing on how I can serve and help others, is when I was more confident, when I felt more fulfilled, and I felt that love in that ways like I never did before.
Right.
It's a different exchange. Yes,
It is. And I think, and a lot of people will be challenged by this, because some people don't feel they're deserving of love because of things they've done. They feel guilt, and they live in that emotional home. Some people don't feel they're worthy of love because of religion and condemnation. And some people don't feel like they're deserving of love because of their, sexual preference or their identity to gender. And so there's so many different reasons why, when we're in a state of loneliness and feeling like, am I the only one, and not having anyone accept that we feel this non-deserved feeling of, or this emptiness of love, right? And I always say to people, like, you can be loved or you can be loved, but to be loved is to really love yourself. And it's like, well, how do I do that? How do I love myself when I've never received it? I don't really identify with it. All these, again, limiting belief things. And I always, suggest, at least for me, because I struggled with self-love for a very long time, and I had a lot of issues with depression, full candor. And for me, it was, this is who I am here in this space, in this moment. How do I expand myself? And for me, that was growth. That was my first act of self-love. And what I mean by growth is there another person I can have a conversation with that can teach me something different? Is there a book that I can read that can motivate me? Is there a sermon I can listen to that's going to fill me up? But first I had to open my mind and start by saying, maybe I didn't just feel like I deserve love, but I kind of don't believe that anymore. And just kind of like, let me just pretend like that's not true. I had to start there. And then if I were to tell myself I was deserving of love, what would be the things that I would do different than I'm doing now? Well, I'm going to quit drinking so much, and I'm going to quit gossiping with these people, and I'm going to get out of bed. And a loving person wouldn't do this. So I stopped doing that. And I really had to kind of say, the person that I watched, when we talk about comparison, and then I've witnessed, and that person looks like they just love themselves. Maybe I should start to see what they do and maybe imitate it a little bit, right? Because I think sometimes people just don't know what to do. They so locked into that belief system.
They don't believe that the love that someone's giving them is real, because they don't believe. They don't believe that the person's story that they're sharing is true, so they don't believe. So, I mean, I think I don't know how to really identify if it's a time in our life, an experience that we have to go through, what that is. But we open, like they say, that the teacher shows up when the student's ready to learn, right? Same thing with love. You can love me to death, but if I don't love myself, I hear you, I kind of believe you, but I don't feel it in depth because I don't really, whoever that is, love themselves completely.
That's true, yeah.
That's something I think I mean, I go back to spirituality too and prayer, and, I believe in the power of that. Like, please open up my heart. Let me receive what it is I need to receive so I can live the life that I want to live, and you call me here to live. Those are the things that I've used for me to help me. And I do seek words, sermon, books, people. I love people, and my love for people has grown as I've gotten older, and it's genuine. I think, why do I love people so much? Like, what is it? Everybody has a beautiful story, even in their darkest moments and their crud.
I love that you love people, because I tend to be a little cynical sometimes, right? I'm like, I'm over people.
Doesn't mean I always believe them,
kidding.
but I love them. I could see, I feel that the more you are around it and ask for it, and it's a beautiful exchange.
So, Kathy, let me ask you a question. Because you mentioned a limiting belief system you had as it pertained to your business. You also mentioned at one point you were into bodybuilding and things like that. Were there any limiting belief systems you had when it came to that world? Because I've trained and I've done a fitness competition, and I just remember feeling more insecure at the most optimal that I'd ever been than ever in my life, ironically. And I don't know if it's because I'm on a stage and I'm being judged and I'm being looked at and everything's being scrutinized, but just thinking I could never do this again, But were there any other limiting belief systems that you had? And how did you feel that you were able to change those limiting beliefs to change outcomes?
Yeah. So I actually never did competitions, but funny enough, what led me to strength train, to do the bodybuilding thing as a hobby and just for fun, was a big limiting belief. Just full candor, like you said, like getting vulnerable here is like, I was married and divorced very young because I grew up in an Asian household, and I love my mom. She's taught me a lot of lessons, but one of the things I had was like, oh, nobody's going to want a woman who's so strong and who's so outspoken and who's so this and who's so that. And so I settled, honestly, for my first marriage, for my first relationship, because I thought no one would want such a strong, powerful woman. You're too combative. You don't act like a lady, right? And that was my thing. Like, I felt like I didn't deserve to be loved, and I should have just like accepted what I got. And so after the divorce was when I like fueled my energy into something good, because I was like, I don't want to, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do that kind of stuff. So where can I channel this? Like, what can help me? And the gym and bodybuilding became like my escape, my solace, and it helped me build confidence by building strength, because I was like, if you can control your body, you can control your mind, you can control everything. Like, you can sculpt this the way you want, you can create, and that's like, I can create muscle, I can create definition. And it translated from my physical body to my mindset.
I love that.
That's
beautiful.
Hands down. That's therapy.
That's
what's up.
So to me, it was therapy. It was confidence, and I loved it.
I love that. What you said, though, is, wow, how proactive you are. What a beautiful story. Because I think, and then I know you want to share something, but I think that's part of our limiting belief system, is that sometimes we go through things, and for some people, they're very tragic things, and we get stuck and stifled by it. And we don't know how to come out of it because the story and the narrative keeps replaying. And it's like finding a positive way to channel that, right? Like I tell people, or even for myself, this happened in my life, whatever it may be, right? This is the word I attach to what happened. Not enough. I don't belong. I'm alone. I'm never going to let anyone get close to me. People will hurt you, whatever it is, right? And when I tell that story, am I telling it in a space where it's always present with me? Because that's where you get stuck, right? And I've had things happen to me in my life as everyone. And for some people, they heard my story, they're like, oh my gosh. And for some people, it's going to be like, that's nothing. Here's my story. So it's not to take away from a story, but to understand that we all are the same emotionally, right? But if I can look at that story and those words and that narrative and say, no, from now on, when I tell that story, I'm going to be on this big, huge cloud above the story. And I'm going to look down on what happened. And I'm going to tell it from that perspective. And when we can empower ourselves to do that, sometimes just that little shift, the story is not here. It is what happened, but it's what is happening. I did this thing, Landmark Forum. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. But the Landmark Forum, it was one of the best programs I have ever done. And it's not a plug. I'm not getting paid. But it was one of the best experiences. But it was, this is what happened. And this is the story that I say about what happened. And it is in between those two things is where your possibilities are. And the more we bring what happened and the story to life, you narrow your possibilities. And it's about learning to say, this is what happened. Now what? I'm going to tell it from up here. I'm no longer going to tell it at eyes level. It doesn't rule me. It doesn't conquer me. It is not a part of my life anymore. And I will not let it reign over me any longer. So you were going to say, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, that was good. That was actually really good. When you shared your experience as far as stepping on stage, clearly, I've trained many to compete as well.
You got me. You're the one that inspired me to do it.
Regardless of that, Damaris is one. And if she ever watches this, I love you because she's a perfect example of that. Her goal was the goal. That was it. The journey through there, whether she looked like the other girls or not, she stepped on stage and she, what we call ready, was not, but she had a goal. She met it. And that was the best thing she could have ever done for her. So it goes back to that. Now, through the journey of that, I'm competitive with certain things. I have a certain status that I want to keep within because I've worked my way to that point.
Right.
We all have a beginning, a middle, but we also know how much work we really put into something. So sometimes we put in a little bit of work and then we kind of put in more work and then a little bit of work and then more work, but we still show up. And then that, I think the defeat comes knowing that we could have done better in anything.
Yeah.
That's that part there. And especially in fitness, because the body keeps score and the issues are in the tissues, like all of those things. It's a fact. However, when you do something because it's the journey, like for me, I plan to compete again someday, but I want to go through the journey.
Yeah.
I want to feel that because I'm different every time. And I change, and that's what I hunger for. And if I place, it's a freaking bonus. I look amazing, great, but I keep myself fit because I like the way I feel, and it makes me feel powerful for myself. I enjoy that. When I don't feel good, it's because I'm not doing my best for me.
Right.
And that's what my indicator is for me. But on the fitness competitive level, that's what I would think on that.
So I think it's a great place for us to kind of close it up, because next on part 2, which will be next week, we're going to really tap into, we've gotten some great identifiers right now, but I really want to really go into depth and talk to people about how they actually get out of it, how do they overcome, and how do they change the story, because some stories are incredibly difficult to change, and sometimes we feel like if we were to change it, it somehow omits the story and it's as though it never happened. So I want us to really tap into that so people can hopefully remove some of the shackles. But before we go, I would love for you all to give us some closing thoughts on limiting belief systems and any positive and inspirational thing you can say to the people out there listening.
gonna go first?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but uncertainty is not a place to live. And I think limiting beliefs keep us in a place of uncertainty. We're in limbo all the time because we don't know whether
That's
we're
a good
going to go
point. Thinking
here.
it's certainty, but
Yes.
it's really uncertainty.
Correct.
Okay, continue.
And I believe that's the devil's playground. You know, you have to have some direction in whatever way, even if it's the wrong way according to who, according to what, according to, you go forward, you're going to get to the next step, whatever that is. Believing you can't, to me, that's uncertainty. How do you overcome that? You hang around people like this, you listen to podcasts like that, you actually do the work, you step forward. You take the pillow from behind you, you put one foot outside of the bed, whatever that is, go for a walk, move your body, hydrate. Those are simple things that we can do that matter that some people don't. And even those little things will change things.
Love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Kathy?
I would say action breeds confidence. And so it's kind of like what you're saying, like you had to tell, what if I acted as though this, right? And then just taking the action, taking those steps towards your goals, as opposed to just like, you might not automatically believe something is possible, but once you achieve one little goal and another little goal and another and so on, so don't just focus on like that end goal. I always like to gamify, I call it, like any kind of goal I have, whether it's personal or professional. And so think about it as levels in video games, right? We all played them when we were children growing up. I don't play them anymore, but you're not going to say, I can't beat this game because like this is one level. You go one level at a time to beat the game, right?
Right.
Same thing with life, same thing with every single goal. And that's what builds that confidence. So I don't know. I did the same thing. I was like, let me just try this. And then over years and over a lot of time, and just knowing that it takes time, right? There's no such thing as an overnight success, whether it's with self-work, whether it's with business goals, whether it's with fitness goals. And having that patience and giving yourself grace is so important, because I think everyone thinks like, oh, I need to like overcome my limiting beliefs in like one night or 1 week or one seminar, like you go for 3 days and you're like, I can do this. And it's like, no, it takes time. It takes consistency.
time.
I got one last note. It's trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes we get stuck in, if I have grace for myself or if I forgive myself, that's going to be enough for my life. And then I'm just going to stay right there because that's it.
Right.
So I think it's trusting that even though you go through that and you feel that and you pass through that, you can still move forward.
I think the first belief system that you need to have is that your destination, exists, right? I call it getting to Disneyland. If I know that Disneyland exists and I have a desire to be there one day, a plan gets put into motion to get there. Maybe it's I have to save money and get a budget for it. If I'm close enough, am I going to drive or do I want to fly? And who am I taking with me on the journey to get to Disneyland? The bottom line is I wouldn't pack my car or get on that plane or pack my bags or save the money if I didn't believe the place existed, right? And so it's like, I deserve love and I'm going to find my spouse or the love of my life or my soulmate. I believe that is my destination. Then you start to plan it. I believe I can have that business. I believe I'm worthy of an award, right? I believe I can get that job. That's your Disneyland. When you know that it's real and that it exists, then you plan on how to get there, right? And what's most important for me, for example, with Disneyland, I want to go to Disneyland, but there are certain people, if I'm driving there, that I'm not going to spend that much time in the car with. I need to know that if I'm in that ride to Disneyland, I've saved, I've waited for this moment, I believe it exists, I've heard about this wonderful place, I'm going to get to the happiest place on earth, whatever that means to me. But if I'm in that car and I get a flat tire, that's not going to stop me from going. But I need to know the people in the car are going to get out and help me change the tire. Maybe I plan to get there in 4 hours from Vegas to California. But if there's a detour and it's going to take me 4 more hours, I'm still going to get to my Disneyland. And that's how we have to approach our lives.
Yep.
What is your Disneyland? Make it tangible. Make it something that you believe that you can get to, whether it's love, whether it's your health. Make it a belief system that's so powerful, that's so compelling, that you know you can get there. It's just a matter of how, when, and who you're taking with you.
I was going to say, like, it's a Tony Robbins saying, but, where you focus on, energy flows.
Absolutely.
Where your focus is, energy flows, and that's so true. Like, and I think your Disneyland example is perfect because a lot of people focus on what they don't want to happen, and that's what happens. So focus on what you want to happen. Right. Not, I don't want to fail. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this. Like, focus on what you want to happen, because that's where the energy and everything's going to flow.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. This was so good. Okay, so quick reference. Again, part 2 will be how to overcome the limiting belief systems. That will be next week. How do we overcome limiting belief systems? And if you want to reference, there is TonyRobbins.com. He has the complete guide to limiting beliefs. So if you want to work through the workbook and do some of his things, highly recommend it. It's great stuff. And again, if you've watched this entire show, thank you again. If you forgot to hit subscribe, I'm here to remind you, hit the subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and send us your comments. Thank you again for watching The Mindsetters. Until next time, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
That was good.